Elevation Nation. Time for another Fortitude in 15. We're going to start this episode out by giving a huge congratulations, shout out, lots of love. He's not officially an elevator, but he is an elevator in our hearts and one of our biggest supporters. Our dear friend Miles Grossman completed the New York Marathon running 26.2 miles this past weekend. And more importantly than that physical accomplishment, raised $52,000 for cancer research. Obviously something very close to our hearts right now. So we just want to give Miles a shout out and his family a shout out. We're thinking of you guys. We love you guys. And you've inspired our discussion for today's Fortitude in 15, Grossman family and Miles in particular, because we want to talk about the topic of why humans like to do hard things, why they like to push themselves to try to accomplish physical feats, mental feats, things that others find extraordinary. And I think it's an interesting topic. Parker, you've ran in the past. You can talk about your experiences. Why do you think people like to push themselves to the brink of passing out, throwing up, breaking their toes, whatever it may be?
I think doing hard things, Sam, doesn't just have to be running a marathon, first of all. And second of all, I think what you consider as difficult or hard is going to be different than what I consider to be difficult and hard. And also to other people, to you, Elevation Nation, we all have our own thoughts about what is difficult and what is hard. But I think we can all assume that training for a marathon and then running for a marathon, yeah, that's pretty difficult and hard. I look back on the last 186 episodes that we've done, Sam, and a big piece and a big theme that is consistent through all of the conversations that we've had with both ourselves or the elevators that we've brought on the podcast is that we like to do hard things. We like to push ourselves outside the comfort zone because, one, it feels good when we're on the other side, when we have accomplishments. But two, it allows us to feel, I feel like it allows us to feel like we're contributing. We're doing something bigger than just, waking up and going through the daily whatever of life. Doing hard things is like, there's something weird about it because it's not maybe fun in the moment, but there's something really gratifying after the fact when you accomplish that thing, or you look back and like maybe the good thing that you really loved about it was the grind while you're in it, not the actual outcome.
This is such a cool topic because, to your point, people push themselves in many different ways. I don't run marathons. That's not how I find my ways to push myself. But I think people push themselves because of a theme that we love on the podcast, which is getting bored with their comfort zone. And I think a lot of times we do day in and day out something very, very similar, right? Wake up, do your morning routine, maybe you work out, make some breakfast.
But that's hard.
And go to work.
That could be hard to people. To wake up. Waking up may not be difficult because I think every human knows how to wake up. But going and consistently doing that morning routine, I think that could be very difficult to many people. And consistently going to the gym, consistently eating healthy, consistently meditating, that is difficult. That is hard.
Sure.
That's why I started this off by saying.
My point.
But that's why I started this off.
My point
was
that things get routine and get comfortable. And so having a big event to push towards allows you to have something that is perhaps net new, totally different, and outside of the normal that you can have a goal to strive towards. So I agree. Your waking up and working out and staying consistent, of course, is extremely difficult. But when that routine becomes too comfortable, people want to feel that excitement of the unknown and to mix it up. And I think a marathon training is an example of how people do that and get outside their comfort zone.
Well,
now you can speak.
I'm going to bring it also even to this part. We're talking about like motivating, like go out and do hard things because good things happen on the other side. But think about we've had this discussion before. Think about how much people don't push and don't choose to do hard things when in reality they can, and they, in some circumstances, should, out of fear. Fear is the thing that's holding them back. Fear is the thing that is saying, you know what, I'm going to pass on doing that hard thing because, one, I'm scared I might fail. Two, I might not be able to do that certain thing or stay consistent, or people will judge me in a certain way. I look at sometimes, think of how much people avoid doing hard things when in reality they have the potential to do that thing. I think that happens a lot more than we think.
Certainly. I mean, if people had all the time in the world and the motivation, they would go and do more stuff.
Think about your own self, right? Like, how many times do you not do something that you know you have like a gut wrench, like this would be cool for me, this would be good, but out of fear, you don't end up doing that thing. It's happened with the Elevation Nation sometimes. It's happened in work. It's happened with relationships. It happens all the time. I think it's innate in being a human. Fear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't do it because of fear. I think I don't do it because I don't think fear is the right word. I think it's like the fear of doing it is not what's stopping you.
Well, define fear for yourself.
I think it's the trade-off, right? Of not knowing, is this the right thing to spend time, effort, and energy on? So maybe that's in your mind fear, but in my mind, it's like I get paralyzed by the options. Yeah, like what if I spent that doing something else?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's my fear of wasting time. It's not like I'm scared to do something.
I don't know. I'm going to push you even further. Wow, this is a good conversation on Fortitude and 15. What if you're afraid to not, like, you don't do something because you're afraid that you might end up short of your expectations? We've talked about how you have very high expectations for yourself. And that is like an inherent fear in why you don't do certain things throughout your day. And those certain things might be difficult in your book. And you choose to not do them because you're scared you might end up short. And that's why it's hard.
Yeah, I guess maybe the fear of failure, sure. Yeah, I mean, you can boil it down to that, right? Why haven't we quit our jobs and done this full time?
Yeah.
We probably are scared that we wouldn't be able to pay the bills. So that's a fear that we both have.
Fear my mom might.
That doesn't mean that it's the right decision to do.
I'm crazy.
Yeah.
You know, fear that I might get kicked out of my apartment building. Like, there's so many things. I mean,
that might happen without you quitting.
Why is that?
With how rents are going in New York. It's crazy these days.
Well, I wouldn't have signed the rent deal, Sam, if I couldn't afford it.
Good. I'm proud that you were responsible, Parker.
Because that would have not been good as well.
That's true. Yeah, I think fear overall is something that perhaps boxes us, but I think on the more positive side of this, I think people get bored with their everyday. And I think finding a way to push your body, your mind, your spirit to do something completely different and try something very new is why people do that, to try to live a different life, right? We are born in the United States of America, and for many of us, our societal expectation for 90% of us is to go get a normal job, to live the quote-unquote American dream, to have 2.5 kids, and live your life. And I think for many people, whether that's running a marathon, whether that's starting a company, whether that's having a side hustle passion, whether that's hiking Machu Picchu, or whether that's doing ayahuasca in the Brazilian rainforest, humans like to mix it up. We get bored of the stagnation in life. And I think pushing yourself to do hard things is one of those ways.
That. I think a lot of people choose that life. A lot of people don't choose to run a marathon. A lot of people don't choose to start a company. People like that, you know, they buy a house in the suburbs, they have 2 kids, and they're perfectly fine with that. I think from what you or I are getting at is that in our book, what we consider elevating and elevation, like the people within Elevation Nation, that has been very consistent among all the people we've spoken to, the hundreds of people we've talked to, is that they're always looking for that next thing. They're trying to do more. They're doing hard things. But a lot of times they're conquering that fear as well along the way. Tons of fear.
It's amazing. And then that's why.
What's more difficult? The physical hard things to do, like running a marathon, or the mental hard things like what's a mental hard thing? I don't know, like the consistency of showing up every day to every conversation that you have, like being true to that person, like in every conversation. That's a hard thing to do as well, but they're completely different things. So now that I look back, it's like you can't really compare.
Well, I mean, to take that point, I guess, and put it in a different direction, I think you need to be mentally and physically there for a lot of these different challenges that many humans have found out to push themselves, right? I think the easier way to do it, to find that way of doing something hard, is through physical feats. But to your point, Parker, you could certainly do mental feats, right? And I think I can give an example. I read a book called Think Like a Monk, right, by one of our favorite entrepreneurs, Jesse Itzler. And he went and he lived at a place where monks live. I'm blanking on the name, a sanctuary, a retreat, something. Someone will correct me. And he lived there, and they didn't speak for like 27 days.
That's hard.
It's not necessarily physically hard.
It might be
mentally
physically hard.
Mentally difficult, and you had to focus and sit and meditate and be with your thoughts. And I think the thing about all this is that's not right for everyone. I'm not saying that you need to go out there and do those things. I don't do those things. I would be a hypocrite if I said that. But I think what's amazing about the human spirit is that many of us like to be challenged in different ways. And many of us sometimes are bored with our 9-to-5 and our corporate job and want something to mix it up and give us that adrenaline rush and that excitement and that feeling of accomplishment. And that's what marathons, and that's what hiking, and that's what whatever physical feat or mental feat it is does for many people. And so that's what's really cool. Parker, I'll ask you, I'm inspired by Miles's, endeavor. Is there anything that you have on your list that you're want to do to push yourself outside the comfort zone lately?
Yeah, there's definitely a few things. It's definitely different than what I had thought of probably in the past. But we're getting on 15 minutes, so I'll have to tell you next time.
We have 2 minutes left, which means Parker can't think of anything, which is okay.
Oh, I got something. I need to think it through before I talk about it.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to hear.
Okay.
Let's give some shout-outs to the nation.
Let's give some shout-outs for sure. Who do we got here? Okay. I got, great guest. She works at the same company that we do. She's a former United States Olympian fencer. Nzinga Prescott was honored by ESPN Women's, or ESPNW, is that what it's called? Or just ESPN in general. Screw that. ESPN. And she was honored with the Everyday Hero Award. Nzinga is an incredible person beyond fencing. She runs a nonprofit, giving back to her community, using sport as an avenue for people to give back. And she's an incredible person. All around. She blows up my Instagram feed. I'm like, damn, I got imposter syndrome. We talked with her. She's doing some big time stuff.
She's amazing. Check out the Prescott Institute if you want to learn more about some of the amazing work that Nzinga is doing in the greater New York City area for young adults and young people and in the youth, so that they can learn how to fence and better themselves and their community. Shout out Nzinga. All right, I got another athletic accomplishment. Our dear friend and elevator on the podcast. He is elevator number 86. And my personal favorite sport, pickleball, has been blowing up. And we had the privilege of talking with Alex Newman, who recently came to DC and competed in the DC Open and got 4th place in the Singles Open, which is incredible. Alex is blowing up the pickleball circuit, getting sponsored all over, kicking ass. And Alex, I'm not going to lie, it's awesome watching you, man. So congratulations. Keep on pickling. And hopefully I'll be at your level one day, but probably not.
Do you feel inferior to Alex because you're a pickler as well? Just you have to do it in your kitchen and use like jars in your fridge for it to work, where Alex is out there making money pickling and you're just sitting there.
Well, Parker, I have you know, I played a plethora of pickleball this past week while I was down in Savannah, Georgia. So I pickle both in the kitchen and outside of the kitchen.
I would love to see Alex just kick your ass in pickleball. How about me?
I would love
I'd
to kick your ass in pickleball.
I'd destroy you. It would be so
Oh,
funny.
my God.
I've played
Parker, you're an
pickleball
old
like
man.
3 times, but Sam's not a guy who's like good at the racket sports. I can tell his physique. He's like a basketball player. He didn't grow up playing tennis and all these sports. Like, it would just destroy you, dude. It's not even close.
All right, Elevation Nation, Parker and I are going to play pickleball. We'll let you know who wins. Until next week, check out our episode this week with 2 amazing young women who are therapists in New York City, Maddie Weinfeld and Marissa Robinson. If you're looking on improving your mental wellness, it's a fantastic episode to check out. Until next week, peace.